Liqwid Protocol, a decentralized protocol in Cardano that makes borrowing and lending easy. Okay, lenders can in fact lend their funds to the pool in Liqwid Protocol to get an API for these loan funds while receiving at the same time a tokenized interest-bearing version of the amount of tokens they supplied, and that can be exchanged in the free market. Okay, while borrowers, after supplying tokens to the protocol, can use this tokenized version of the funds supplied as collateral to get perpetual loans. Yeah, that's right, perpetual loans. So basically loans that you never need to repay the full amount you've requested if you don't want to. You simply need to pay the interest rate in perpetuity, so forever. And in this case, in Liqwid Protocol, this interest rate is variable and is set automatically by the protocol considering the demand and supply for loans. Sounds interesting? Well, if you want to know more about this protocol and how everything works, and how you are able to keep your assets in a liquid way while in your custody and also access these perpetual loans, just make sure you stick around for the rest of the project analysis. So, what is Liqwid, you ask? Liqwid is a decentralized non-custodial liquidity protocol for interest rate curves. Okay, this is their own definition. But before going any further and diving deeper into this definition, it's important to remind you that nothing in this video is financial advice, only educational content. With that out of the way, let's come here to, as you can see here, the Liqwid platform, and here is the definition of Liqwid that I just mentioned, you guys. Okay, but let's dive deeper into this definition. Okay, starting with the non-custodial part. Non-custodial basically means that the users keep the custody of the assets. Okay, and that the funds themselves are in our custody and not just locked in the protocol. Okay, so how does Liqwid does that exactly? Well, basically, whenever you supply, for example, assets into the protocol, you get a tokenized version of these assets that are the Q assets. So imagine you supply ADA, you get Q ADA, and these are assets that represent the amount of ADA you have in the protocol plus the interest rate you get, okay, across time that will be associated to these assets. In terms of liquidity, okay, liquidity protocol means that it's basically a protocol that users can use to supply and to provide and to acquire liquidity. Okay, so basically just a borrowing and lending protocol. And the part of the interest rate curves basically is that you have the interest rate for borrowing and lending, and this interest rate is decided by the market, by the interaction between the demand and supply for loans. So basically, if there are a lot of people providing funds that, and supplying funds into the protocol, and fewer people wanting to borrow, the interest rates will naturally be lower. And if there are more people wanting to borrow than providing liquidity to the protocol, of course, the interest rates will be much higher to discourage this kind of borrowing and self-regulate the protocol so that the supply matches the demand. So basically, the protocol works and starts with lenders supplying liquidity to the market. Lenders do that because they have that fund and they want to earn some yield on it. In this case, they'll earn the interest rate that is variable and is set by the protocol, while borrowers are people looking for the liquidity, okay, looking for more liquidity, and that probably don't want to cash out their long-term holdings. And borrowers basically just are able to, they need to over collateralize their loans. Okay, so they need to supply funds into the protocol, and then those funds, with those funds and with the QA, the tokens they receive, or Q, any asset they input there, they are able to take on loans. The specific thing about Liqwid is that the interest rates are variable. They are set by demand and supply in the market. Always, you cannot set your interest rate to fixed value. And it's also that the loans are perpetual. Okay, so basically let's check out and look at our dear friend Investopedia to know what is a perpetual loan. Okay, as we can see here, we have the definition of perpetual loans, and perpetual loans are basically loans that you don't have to repay the amount you've borrowed, never. Okay, you can just keep that loan going forever. You just need to keep being able to pay your interest rates associated with this loan forever. Okay, and whenever you want to stop paying interest rates, you just close out that loan. And this is how perpetual loans work. Here, however, there's a twist to these loans. Here they are over collateralized with Lucid. Okay, so as long as you keep paying your interest rates and you keep having a healthy position, you won't have problems and you can sustain those loans forever. But if for some reason you cannot pay your interest rate and you don't have an healthy position, your assets will be liquidated in order to make sure there's no credit risk and that the loan is satisfied and that the lenders never lose their money, basically the money they have loaned you. Okay, so that's very important to consider. And here in Liqwid, it is a very specific way you need to do to keep your healthy position. You don't actually pay interest every month. What you do is that you put some collateral into your loan, and the amount you have there as collateral is what will be used to pay the interest rate for the loans as time goes by. So for example, if you see that the amount you have there is going almost to zero and your loan is getting into a dangerous position of getting liquidated, you either need to start thinking about closing out your loan or maybe inputting more collateral and increase the liquidity of your loan so it gets healthier. So let's go back here into Liqwid and take a look here at the FAQs. I think this part of the Liqwid docs is very relevant and very simple for people to use if they want to learn more about the Liqwid protocol. Of course, you also have the Liqwid white paper that is super important and that you should definitely dive deeper into. But I think this is a more a simple way to show you the information that is valuable. Okay, one thing that I believe is very positive about Liqwid is that it's a protocol that is doing things differently. You know, they really are worried about security. They want to undergo multiple audits. I think they did that already because they just recently launched. And besides that, you know, the all the smart contracts and everything is open source, so people can actually go there, take a look. And in addition, there was a bounty on progress for people to try to just take a look at the code and find all the bugs possible. So they really worried about the code security and also about decentralization, as they are developing a DAO and trying to put all the decisions for the future of the protocol into the hands of the community that will in fact be using this protocol. So let's dive a bit deeper in how this Liqwid protocol works. Right now, for example, the only asset we have available is ADA to supply and to borrow. So taking a look at ADA and taking ADA as an example, when we supply ADA into the protocol, we basically get Q ADA back, okay, in a similar amount to the amount of assets we supplied. And QADA is a tradable asset. We can go there and swap it in DEXs on Cardano for any other Cardano native token or native asset. And in this case, this is an asset that is fully backed by the ADA we invested into the protocol. Okay, so we can go there and redeem it. More than that, it is an interest-bearing asset. So as time goes by, we redeem that asset. When we redeem that asset, we gain the amount of ADA we supply to the protocol, but we also get the interest rate we accumulated whenever we were supplying funds to the protocol. Another thing you can do that is very important with your QADA is that you can use your QADA as collateral to borrow assets in the protocol. Whenever you do that, any interest you earn by supplying assets to the protocol just helps offset the interest you need to pay from borrowing assets, okay? In Liqwid, it's also very important to notice that, as stated here, you cannot withdraw at the fixed rate. So the rate is always variable and is always changing. And basically, you can have different rates for different assets for each asset you have. And yeah, you need to consider that there will be fluctuations between demand and supply that will affect the interest rate you're paying. Of course, don't worry, you'll have a dashboard where you can check all that. You can check the interest rate, you can check all the fluctuations, and keep track of your position to make sure that you're in a healthy state, and the value you're using as collateral won't get liquidated. So yeah, this risk of liquidation is a very serious thing, especially the more volatile your asset is. Okay, so you need to pay attention to this, and if you don't want to get liquidated, you need to either track your position regularly in the dashboard, or you likely need to just put in a lot of collateral for the amount of funds you're borrowing, so that you're sure that you will likely not run into any issues. One thing that is also very important when using this kind of protocols like Liquid is to pay attention to the loan to value ratio. Okay, let's go to Wikipedia here to take a look at what it is. So basically the financial amount, the financial ratio that compares the amount of money being borrowed to the market price of the asset that we are purchasing. In this case, we're not purchasing assets, so we are comparing it to the collateral. Okay, so it basically compares the amount we borrowed to the collateral we have supplied. If this ratio gets negative, naturally will be liquidated, and we won't be able to withdraw or borrow any assets until the account liquidity is fixed again. And how will the account liquidity get fixed? Either we put more money into the protocol or more assets into the protocol, or either the price of the assets goes up and the liquidity increases. So the account liquidity basically considers the amount of assets you supply for each asset multiplied by a specific variable that is the market's collateral factor, that I'll explain you what it is afterwards, and then summed up. Okay, and then you check the amount of assets you've borrowed and subtract that amount from this value, and you'll get the account liquidity. As you can see here in the image below, it's an example of how a shortfall of value can lead to a liquidation of your account considering all these variables. Naturally, the best way to increase your account liquidity, as you can imagine, is to supply more assets into the protocol, and that will increase the account liquidity, or to repay a loan. Okay, if you repay a loan, you'll remove the amount of borrowed funds and the account liquidity increases. However, if you do any of the opposite things, like removing some of the liquidity you have in this protocol, or for example, just contracting a loan, that will naturally decrease your account liquidity, and is something you need to pay attention to. So the market collateral factor is a variable that Liqwid uses in its calculations. And it's a very important variable in terms of how many assets you can borrow. So basically it ranges from 0 to 90%, and that determines, like, after you supply a few assets, what is the percentage of that you can use from those assets as collateral to get a new loan, basically to get a loan. And this is directly related with the tokens themselves. It's a value that is attributed to each asset and each token. Okay, and in fact it's attributed based on the market cap and the liquidity of the assets. Okay, where naturally lower market cap, more liquid assets have a lower collateral factor, while more higher liquidity, higher market cap assets have a bigger collateral factor. Okay, and this is used to help protect the protocol in terms of the volatility of the market, and to make sure that you won't have many issues with volatility in terms of credit risk and credit default. For example, let's imagine there is a certain asset in the protocol that has a 0% collateral factor. That basically means that the asset can be used as collateral. So basically you can supply that asset, you can earn interest rates on that asset, you can borrow that asset, but you cannot use it as collateral. You need to use some other asset as collateral for those loans. Let's take a look at ADA, okay, that is already available in the platform. ADA, as we can see here in the technical FAQ, let me here, as a market factor of 70%. Okay, so that means that for every 100 ADA you supply into the protocol, you can use that, you can use 70% of that ADA as collateral to get any asset of the protocol. So you may basically borrow $70 of ADA from the protocol if you supplied $100 of ADA. I think this is very interesting and positive, a very interesting feature and important to get some more security to the Liqwid protocol. But I do think also that is a bit incomplete, I would say. I think it's also very important to take a look at token distribution and consider the token distribution as an important variable to attribute this collateral value, because the higher the token distribution, the less likely it is that a whale could come and really drop the price and increase volatility in this token, or even make this token worthless. So basically, it's like the more people in a community believe that the token has value, and the more this value is shared across people, the less likelihood is that this token will go to zero. One thing important about these collateral factors is that they are not updated automatically. They can only be updated through the community governance in the Liqwid Dao. One thing very important about Liqwid, as I told you before, is that they have the Liqwid Dao. Liqwid Protocol aims to be a decentralized autonomous organization where the users of the protocol define the future of the protocol, okay? And in this case, to vote and participate and do proposals for this Liqwid DAO, and even implement the changes, you need to have the Liqwid token, the LQ is the token, guys. And this is all done through Liquid Improvement Proposals, also known as LIPs. One important thing is to actually use these tokens, the LQ tokens. You need to stake your Liquid within the protocol, and this is also very important in terms of security, because it gives you access to a safety pool. You stoke the tokens in a safety pool that, in case of any unexpected liquidations, can be used as a short-term reserve to make sure that all the lenders will get them value they inputted, and they can withdraw the value, and whenever the situation comes back to the normal, that liquidity pool is restored, and liquid users that stake their value get their value back. And as part of course, taking on this risk and staking and helping ensure the protocol, liquid stakers earn a portion of the protocol's revenue, and also like staking rewards from the protocol. Before I forget, it's important to come here to the Liquid page and also show you a little bit more about Liquid. As you can see here, you have the governance here. You can visit the governance and all the proposals in their governance forum here, where you have to come here and also register, sign in, and connect your wallet so that you can actually see how much tokens you have and where the tokens are staked, and see the voting power you have, even to create proposals. Okay, but we'll dive into that later. We'll dive deeper into that later, because one thing that's very important is here. I wanted to show you the Aquafarmers. This is basically an NFT collection of 10,000 NFTs launched by Liqwid Labs that are basically give you the privilege and as have a utility, being able to increase your staking rewards whenever you stake with the Liqwid DAO. Okay, those NFTs are here in Cardano. They were launched for 44 ADA, and right now they are trading at 243 ADA. Yeah, they seem cool, but they have a very specific utility as well, and it was a way for the protocol to sell some NFTs and gain some funds, some needed funds to continue their endeavor. So as you can see here, you have the Liquid proposals here. Liquid, you can use the Liquid forum to do all kind of changes you want, update parameters, or even suggest other proposals. For example, here they have a proposal to reduce the token emissions, okay, for example, and to change how the tokens will be supplied. So yeah, you can do all kinds of proposals and vote in them and decide the future. You just need to have your LQT token staked, and you need to have 1% support to actually go through with propositions. You also need to have 10% participation to ensure that the vote is actually can actually be passed and the changes can be implemented. And of course, the changes that will be implemented, that will be the one that have the majority of the votes on this voting. So it's certainly really cool to see just how decentralized Liqwid wants to be, and it's also a very interesting use case with a decentral, a kind of mechanism, voting mechanism, very similar to the liquid democracy that Cardano wants to develop. So certainly an experiment to pay attention to and to follow on how it works, to even use the valuable information and conclusions we get to apply in the Cardano governance model. Okay, and if you want to know more about the Cardano governance model that is currently being developed, I'll leave the link here at the top for you to watch that video. Finally, probably one important question you have right now is why would you borrow um, from Liqwid instead of selling your assets? Well, basically, one of the reasons is if you have long-term crypto holdings and you want to keep them and you're bullish on that asset and you don't want to miss on the price appreciation you'll get from selling that asset, you can instead borrow to any access to any other asset without needing to sell your long-term crypto asset holdings. Okay. Besides that, is also a great instrument for price speculation. For example, if you believe a certain Cardano native asset, for example, will appreciate in terms of price when compared with ADA, for example, you can borrow ADA, buy this asset, and once it appreciates, you sell the asset, you repay the loan to the protocol, and you keep the difference between the what you had to repay and the amount you sold. As long as you were able to sell that asset for more ADA than the ADA you need to pay, you have basically made a profit out of nothing. Okay, but of course this is very risky kind of activities, and you should really be careful, do a lot of research before trying to engage in any of these, have notion of the risks, and also be willing and be realizing that you'll likely lose money in the beginning while you're learning. Finally, let's dive deeper into the Liqwid Dao token, the LQ. Okay, the LQ as their biggest demand driver besides speculation, because it is a volatile token, are the voting rights you get from the Liqwid Dao. It gives you the right to participate in the Liqwid Dao decisions and change things up, and this right is especially important if you use the protocol. Another significant demand driver is actually staking those LQ tokens, because as you've seen before, you get rewards from the fees of the protocol, but you also get the staking rewards of the assets that are locked in the protocol, and that comes up to an interesting yield that people need to consider. Okay, in terms of the LQ token, as you can see here, the total supply is fixed at 21 million. Okay, and with 5% going for the DAO treasury, 25% to core team and advisors, and 70% will be distributed to the community with several different initiatives. Okay, that will go later, that will dive deeper later on. But considering this, that in my opinion, looking at this tokenomics and considering that Liquidity should be a fairly decentralized project with not too much influence from the team after the first version, after the things are built, the rest of the things should be decided by the community. I believe there is a huge amount of tokens going to the team. Okay, and that's kind of concerning. I think definitely it would be nice to see less tokens going to the team and more tokens going to the DAO treasury, so that the DAO could have more funds to implement the proposals and keep improving. And it will also be pretty interesting for the DAO to have some kind of funding mechanism to keep evolving, keep funding itself, to be able to finance the proposals that the DAO will define. Okay, that the users, the voters of the DAO will create. So let's now take a deeper look into the emission of the LQ tokens. Okay, the emission, looking first at the emission for the community distribution part, we see that emission will go across 3 years, so a pretty short period for emission. And in this case, it will be a deflationary token emission with yearly halvening of the emissions. Okay, so most of the tokens will be emitted during the first year and the second year. The team will get access to their token faster. Okay, they have a linear vesting schedule, and this linear vesting schedule finishes 2 years from now. Okay, so in 2 years, the team will have access to their 5 million LQ tokens that correspond to 25% of the supply, which is not great because you can see a lot of selling pressure from the team during this period, during these 2 years of the LQ emission schedule. Before diving further, and regardless of anything I say about this tokenomics, I think it's important to give a great shout out to the Liqwid team. This is a very complex tokenomics analysis, both here and in the white paper. So it's very good to see a team doing this kind of work. It's very refreshing. And in the Cardano ecosystem, some of the projects I've been looking to, it's kind of hard to find good tokenomics, and that's worrying. I do appreciate this transparency from the LQ, from the Liqwid team, and it's one of the things they are doing good. This, the part of making the code open source available for everyone and really trying to stress test it to make sure it's secure, and also the part of decentralizing the protocol are some of the things that are very positive, and I think it's important to give value where value is due. So, taking a look at how you can earn LQ tokens through the community distribution, I also think this is a very positive distribution. So, the Liqwid tokens are distributed to the community 50% to suppliers and 50% to borrowers. And naturally, the distribution is associated with the amount of value they have supplied and borrowed. And below, we also have here the allocation for the token distribution. Okay, so the community incentives are almost 50%. So for the people that are actually using the protocol and that will get rewarded with LQ tokens thanks to their usage of the protocol, especially during these first years. Then we also have the 25% for the team. As you know, we have 70% for LQ staking. So you also get some emissions in the beginning for staking LQ, another incentive to stake. And then you also have 1.5% was a airdrop did in the community Discord in 2021. And then we have the 5% for the DAO and 4% to incentivize liquidity provider. There's no pre-sale, no ICO, and the funds are not going through the team, are fairly distributed across the users of the community. And the only kind of airdrop there was for the Discord, as I told you. Okay. One thing that is important, of course, to always look in these projects is the team. Okay. But it was impossible to find the team here in the website. We could only find some of the great partners they have. There are Vacuum Labs and Nam Labs, some great partners in terms of developing the Cardano ecosystem. But after doing a bit of digging and research through the internet, I was able to find the team on LinkedIn. Okay, I would have liked to have the team on the website, but I do understand that probably as they want to be a decentralized protocol governed by the community, they don't want to have a team there, and they opt to go that way. Although I think it would be good and valuable for everyone coming to the protocol to see who built it and the kind of credentials they have. Looking at the team, let's start with the founder. Okay, the founder here is Dwayne Cameron, DC, known as DC here in the crypto industry. He's a founder that doesn't have that much experience. He has some experience as a senior consultant, probably went through a lot of businesses and saw a lot. So he decided to create his own business with Liqwid Labs. He's also someone who is involved in the Cardano ecosystem and in the cryptocurrency space. He also did he also has the role as an advisor for Indigo Protocol, although that didn't went that good. They had a lot of problems. Then we also have here Florian. Okay, Florian is a DeFi entrepreneur on blockchain, so he has some experience in finance and experience even as interim CEO and as operations. I think this experience in finance can certainly be important for tokenomics and for developing the dynamics and the macroeconomics and microeconomics inside the protocol. So certainly very, very valuable and interesting. Then we also have Emily, full stack developer. She's the CTO of Liqwid Labs, and she's the one in charge of smart contract engineer. And because she's Ascol fan, okay, she doesn't have a lot of experience, just 2 years, but I guess she's doing some interesting work and also working a lot with Liqwid Labs and with Liqwid Labs, with M Labs and Vacuum Labs. That I've done a lot of the work as well, and I think Emily is more someone to check what's being built and make sure that the ideas of the team are reflected into the protocols. Okay, then we have Tashoma Villini here. Tashoma has a lot of experience as a production manager in a lot of different companies. Yeah, I'm a production manager can be useful, this skill set, in terms of getting the team organized and making sure that everything is well done. But besides that, the areas don't seem very similar, so I really don't know how his experience can adapt to this, but probably someone with some knowledge in terms of blockchain, which I don't really know. Then we also have here Joshua Akpan is one of the co-founders here at Liqwid, and it is also a co-founder and CEO for other projects related to just driving the adoption of blockchain into Africa and to help even to solve a lot of the local problems with the use of blockchain. And it can be important to actually spread the Liqwid protocol through Africa and get a lot of users that will certainly be interested in lending and borrowing, as lending and borrowing is very difficult in Africa, where the interest rates are super high whenever there is lending and borrowing, and where there is just not much opportunities for the majority of people that are largely unbanked. And then going back to the technical side, we also have two engineers here. The lead software engineer for Liqwid Labs, that is Thomas. And yeah, here you can see that he has some considerable years of experience in terms of software development and mostly as a freelancer. So certainly someone that seems capable of taking on this role. And we also have William Skinner as principal engineer for Liqwid Labs. He's a guy with some experience as well, a lot of experience as a senior architect. So certainly interesting to see that these two guys seem even more developed and more fit than Emily. There is a CTO, but of course Emily has a valuable skill set that is their knowledge in ASCO. The team overall is pretty young, but with several diverse experiences and areas of knowledge, which is very positive. And they have new ideas for sure, and they are, proactive. So it's interesting to see what they are able to build here on Cardano and with Liqwid Labs. Okay. In general, I do think Liqwid Labs is a very interesting protocol with these ideas of having perpetual loans, having the liquidity in your hands, with some very interesting ideas in terms of decentralization and even code security. So, a promising project, and a project brings an important DeFi use case to Cardano. Okay, the Liqwid protocol just gone live recently, and I also want to create a video showing exactly how you can use that protocol and dive even deeper and in a more practical manner to these mechanisms set by this protocol. And if you're interested, please subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss that video when it comes out. And until then, if you're interested in revolutionary projects, I'm sure you'll love this video about SingularityNet. I'll leave it here somewhere in the end screen, because SingularityNet is a project that combines AI with blockchain in order to make both better. So super interesting project that you should definitely check it out, and I'll see you there.